the intro again. We may have some new people join, and just for context for people that catch this recording later. This is part 2 of the IACRL Fall Town Hall. My name is Dan Matthews. I'm the Digital Services Librarian at Moraine Valley Community College. I use he, him pronouns. And welcome. I'm super excited about all of the people that are here. The turnout is very exciting. But I think that does indicate to me a little bit of uncertainty about what is going to happen to the fall due to COVID and reopening and all of those concerns. So today's presentations are really about providing some inspiration for plans that have yet to be made, and hopefully some affirmation for some plans that are already in place. We really wanted to have just kind of an informal gathering so we could share some ideas and people get to have some conversations and bounce ideas back off each other. So some logistics for the session: we will do 30 minutes of presentation. We have today with us Fee Rissmiller and Tish Hayes, who are going to present, and I'll introduce them formally in a sec. And then the last 30 minutes of this hour will be for conversation. So asking questions of our panelists in the chat, and I'll kind of go over the specifics there. Asking questions of the attendees in the chat. Really want to try to facilitate as much conversation as we can, so people have as much information and support going forward into the fall as we can give in this time. So let me pull up my intros. And so in this section, we are talking specifically about returning to instruction in the fall. And with us today, we have Fee Rissmiller. Fee is the Instructional Services Librarian at DePaul University. In her current role, she's responsible for planning of the library's instruction programs. Prior to joining DePaul University Library, Fee worked as an adjunct instruction and reference librarian at Malcolm X College. And prior to that, she served as an information literacy and reference librarian at Virginia College and Bryant and Stratton College. Fee received her MLIS from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and holds an MS in Applied Economics from Purdue University. Also, we will have Tish Hayes, who is the Information Literacy Librarian at Moraine Valley Community College. Tish's work is focused on teaching and assessment with a special interest in creating collaborative professional development for the librarians and shared resources for the instruction program. Tish is currently serving on the Carly Instruction Committee and is a co-organizer of the Illinois Information Literacy Summit. So we'll go ahead and get started with Tish. I think is up on the slides here.
Okay, you're going to see a quick transition here. Tish, you ready to share your screen? And just so you know, you're muted right now.
Thank you.
No problem.
One moment, and I will get that screen shared. Hey, you all. I'm excited to be here today. Sorry, one sec. Here we go. Okay, super excited to be here, primarily because I am looking forward to hearing from all of you. So I do want to go through kind of what we're doing at Moraine Valley this fall. We will be online entirely for instruction. So our college decided on that most of the instruction for the entire campus would be online. And they're doing 2 models for online instruction. One, like the typical online asynchronous course. The other is I've just forgotten what they're calling it, a virtual environment. So they'll have folks who are actually like scheduled at a particular time, meeting online. So more like a traditional class, but only online. And then we are doing a hybrid model for those labs and things like that, where students have to come in. But all the library instruction will be online. And so, you know, we got real used to that at the very end of March, which was a huge shift for us. So up until the middle of March, I would say about 95% of our instruction was in person, face-to-face. We have a distance learning librarian who is fantastic, but he is the person who manages most of the online instruction. So the transition was really huge for us. And And for March and the rest of the spring semester, and even really the summer too, we adapted quickly to create content that was short and really just kind of the essential things that we thought students might need. So getting to our databases, how they might use some of our most popular databases, things like Academic Search Complete. And we things together pretty quickly. But it seemed like faculty and students found those things useful. So, you know, when faculty would contact us, most of the time this spring and summer, they weren't looking for full instruction sessions. They were really looking for something to help their students with a particular thing. And same thing with students, often through reference interactions or interactions we would have within a class setting. Students really just needed a very specific thing. So we tried to create and transition to meet those needs. And because we're seeing students needing that kind of like really specific content, that's kind of driving how we move forward for our instruction for the fall as well. Also recognizing that faculty have kind of a limited bandwidth right now. They're doing so much to move their courses online because this is a huge shift for them as well, that many of them I think are having a hard time figuring out how the library instruction fits into that component. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for everyone. So to do all of this, the librarians needed a lot of training, myself included. So again, we mostly were teaching face-to-face. And within the number of teaching librarians that we have, there was a real kind of variance in like how much all of us were comfortable with technology. And even those of us comfortable with technology, how much like online teaching we had done. So we started training immediately in March. And so we offered a number of different options. So a lot of self-paced, you know, webinars and things like that. There was, I think, just so many things coming out, you know, in March and April to help support librarians as we were making this transition. So that was really, really great. And since we're all working from home, we all just took the time we needed to learn the things that we needed. And we shared that information with each other through a Canvas discussion board. So our students learn in Canvas, that's our learning management system. So we tried to do that as well. And then we also started having regular meetings where we could talk through some of the webinars that we watched or some of the specific training needs that we wanted to address. So we really tried to highlight Canvas and WebEx, which is our learning management system, and then also our conferencing system. So many of us were really comfortable with Canvas as a student because that's, you know, where we interacted with Canvas the most, is helping students get to the different things that their instructors had provided. And so it was a real shift to become a teacher in Canvas and like what that meant, how to put together modules, the best way to present information, and just like the ins and outs and practical pieces of it. We also started really highlighting instructional technology. So what are the amazing things out there that can help us do our jobs better? So a lot of looking at things that would help us make tutorials. So we started, or our dean started Tech Thursdays, so highlighting technology for the entire library. And then we kind of adapted that to really focus on instructional technology for the librarians. And then again, there were so many information literacy webinars. A lot of people just did those on their own, but we also highlighted a few that we thought would be useful for everyone. And then had discussions around those. And then also, again, highlighting online pedagogy. So not only like how do we use all of these tools and put all this stuff together, but how do we do it well and really reach our students in really good ways. So once we started to get a little bit more comfortable with the technology, we really started thinking about like how to create, organize, and access. So we, as I mentioned at the very beginning, started putting together guides and tutorials that really covered essential steps for students. So I kind of divided them into two sections: research skills, so things like how to search the catalog, how to put together search strategies, what it means to search Google, what a database is, and then like the really specific database guides. So if you're in a class and you're using SIRS Researcher, this is how you get to that content. And then we also started putting together faculty resources. Once we started putting all of this stuff together, we didn't want anyone to have to reinvent the wheel. So we have a shared spreadsheet. So every time someone creates a new instruction guide of some kind, or a video, or anything that might be used in either a reference interaction or an instruction session, we have a shared spreadsheet. So the links go there. We're doing a lot of Google Doc creation. So we're doing published Google Docs for a lot of our guides. So the published link goes there, the person who created it. So they both get credit. And then also, if someone wants to chat with them about adapting it for a class, they can do that. And that's been really helpful just to kind of keep track of things. We have a teaching resources document, and I'll just link out to that. And I think this is the thing that, like, for me, is kind of pulling things together. And I'm hoping that's what it's doing for our librarians too. So we are sharing all of our information through this document. So how faculty can schedule instruction, so people can just send links off to people. That spreadsheet I was talking to you about. We have created a module for our College 101 class. So most of our instruction, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, comes, individually from instructors, but we do have a College 101 class on our campus, and we see all of those sections, and that has not changed with this move to online. So that is both really exciting because we continue to get to interact with students and connect with them, but it's going to be, I think, a really big load for us to manage. So we created a module that everyone can use and copy, and librarians are very welcome to adapt this to kind of connect with their style, but really wanted something that people could easily implement and use. And then we below have links to all of our training. So people can at any time go back to the training that we've done this summer. We've recorded everything. We have links to everything that we've emphasized. So halfway through the semester, if someone suddenly has to create a Canvas quiz and forgot how to do that, they've got an easy link to do that. And then finally, we tried to make a lot of this accessible to our faculty. So we're hoping that faculty will come to us and ask us for instruction, but we also know the pressures they're under. So we've tried to create, we updated our research guide page so that it really highlights all of these new instructions guides that we've created. So students can find them there, but also faculty can and add them to their Canvas shell. And then that brings us to connecting to faculty. So we're trying to really create awareness of how we've made this shift and how faculty can utilize us this semester. So a lot of emails have gone out and more to come, really trying to highlight where we're at. We found that mostly the people who follow us on social media are not students, but faculty. So we're trying to really reach them that way as well. And then of course, the relationship building that we've always done, really trying to connect with the people that we've been working with over the past semesters and remind them that we can be flexible. So our flexibility focus is right there in our instruction request form. So we transitioned, since we're not scheduling physical spaces, just to a Google Doc for the next couple of semesters that really lets faculty let us know what they need, and we can then accommodate that. So for faculty who are teaching at a particular time and want us to do a Zoom conference or something, sorry, WebEx is what we're using, we can do that. If faculty just want a couple of instruction guides that we've put together that highlight the things that they're doing in their class, we can do that as well. We can create discussion boards. We're just really trying to open up faculty to all of the different options that are available to them and meet them where they are at. And of course, there's a ton of uncertainty. So we don't know what our enrollment this fall will be. So we don't know, how many classes we'll be running. We also, as I keep mentioning, faculty engagement has shifted and changed. I think we're still engaging with faculty a lot, but their bandwidth is kind of like ours. We're all struggling a little bit. And so I think really trying to help them imagine how the library fits into their classes is where we are at right now. Okay, and so I'm happy to answer questions when we are done with the presentations, but please also feel free to email me. And the presentation, I linked a number of the resources that we've created that have been useful to us. So if you want to take a look at those, please feel free to visit the presentation and utilize any of those documents if they are helpful. And thank you so much. I'm so excited to hear from all of you after we hear from me.
Okay, Tish, can you end your share?
Yes, one second. Sorry about that.
Awesome. Okay, Fee, are you ready? Are you do you have your presentation queued up?
Yes, I am going to share just in a moment.
Awesome.
All right, are you all able to see it?
Yep, looks great.
All right, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Fee Rismiller, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm excited to be here as well. I am the instructional services librarian at DePaul, and I'm responsible for the coordination of our library instruction programs. So here's an outline of what I'll be discussing in the 10 minutes or so. So to provide some context, I'll begin by sharing a few general updates about DePaul University's plans for autumn quarter and the library's phased reopening plans. And then I'll briefly share some of the ways we will be supporting our faculty with subject instruction this fall. I will also spend some time providing an overview of how we transformed a pilot project for delivering online instruction to our first year writing classes in winter quarter to a system for providing online instruction during our campus closure. And then I would my presentation by just highlighting some of the lessons that we learned and the adjustments we will be making for autumn quarter. So DePaul University has made a decision that as of right now, and we know everything's fluid at the moment, so for the autumn quarter, classes will be offered in multiple modalities with both on-campus and online offerings. Similar to other libraries, our library has created a phased reopening plan which includes 4 phases, and we are currently in phase 1 with both locations close to patron traffic. Regarding instruction, given the uncertain nature of the pandemic, we have collectively decided that all library instruction services will take place virtually for both our programmatic and subject instruction. So now I'd like to just share with you some ways we will be supporting our faculty with subject instruction. And we've shared these with them this summer by just emailing the departments that we work with and also through blogs that go to the entire campus. So in communication with faculty, we have informed them that we are committed to supporting their online and in-person courses in autumn quarter. We've shared some ideas for incorporating library instruction into their courses as they plan for autumn quarter. So we have offered some of the following. So we've offered to conduct online library workshops as one alternative to an in-person library session. So we use Zoom and for our video conferencing. We've also offered to create videos or other asynchronous tutorials that may be posted to their course management site. So we use D2L for our course management. We have also suggested that they recommend their students to take advantage of our Ask a Librarian service and schedule one-on-one research appointments with us, which will take place via online chat or Zoom calls. We also offer to create customized guides for specific courses as needed. So now that you're kind of familiar with our general plans, I'd like to provide some specifics about a pilot project for our first year writing class that helped us with our transition to online instruction when classes abruptly moved online in spring. So we have a robust relationship with our first year writing program. All incoming freshmen are required to take Word 104, which is the typical first year writing class. Generally, our autumn, winter, and spring quarters, most sections of this class are offered in person. And there are somewhere between 25 to 40 sections. Depending on the quarter, 1 to 4 additional sections of this class are offered online. Both the online and in-person sections have an enrollment of about 25 students. One thing that I'd like to note is that our curriculum is completely different for the in-person and online sections of this class. For the in-person sections, we provide a one-shot library instruction session. For our online sections, a librarian embeds in the course for the entire quarter. I'll be focusing on our online curriculum for this particular class today. For our online curriculum, students watch a series of tutorials and complete an assignment. The embedded librarian grades the assignment and provides individual feedback. Students then make one-on-one research appointments with librarians to review the assignment and ask any questions they might have. Last winter, the number of online sections increased from our standard 1 to 4 sections to 5 sections. And we realized that we needed to rethink the one-on-one research appointment component of our online program due to its time-intensive nature. So after some discussion, we decided to replace those one-on-one research appointments with small group online workshops that would be conducted through Zoom. So instead of meeting with their embedded librarian for an individual research appointment, students would sign up to attend the library Zoom workshop. For each class, the embedded librarian would offer 3 group workshops, and students would sign up for one that would best fit their schedule. So this meant that instead of meeting with each of the 25 students for 15 to 30 minutes each, the embedded librarian would conduct about 3 45-minute workshops. We piloted this new program in winter quarter with 3 librarians who embedded in those 5 sections. The pilot went really well, so we decided to move forward with making the change in future quarters. Around the same time that we were having these discussions about making the change permanent, COVID cases were increasing, and DePaul made a decision that all classes would move online for our spring quarter. We were lucky in the sense that DePaul is on the quarter system and that all classes would start online, and we didn't have to make the switch in the middle of the quarter. Once the administration made the decision to move all classes online, we then in turn decided to use our newly revised online curriculum for all spring quarter first year writing sections. So we had to quickly scale our pilot program. We had a team of 16 librarians embed in 39 sections, which came out to be somewhere between 1 to 3 sections per librarian. Given many of our librarians were embedding in more than 1 section, and we were new to the revised curriculum, not to mention other responsibilities and instruction obligations, we made one major adjustment. Instead of each librarian conducting their own library workshops, we decided to streamline this process. My 2 colleagues and I, who had been a part of the pilot, took on the responsibility for conducting the workshops for all of the sections. We created a workshop schedule and offered somewhere between 3 to 6 workshops per week. We then shared workshop attendance information with our colleagues, as attending a workshop is a graded component. Of course, facilitating the move online required communication and coordination with several groups. First, we needed to communicate with the first year writing program and inform them of our decision to use the online curriculum. We needed to emphasize the difference between the online and in-person curriculum. Most of the faculty had never taught an online section of this class before, so it was important to make them aware of the difference between the 2 curricula. Next, we needed to coordinate with our Center for Teaching and Learning to get their support with embedding our librarians in various sections in our course management system, again, which we use D2L for. They also took care of adding the library module to all the sections in our course management system. Finally, we needed to communicate with the librarians on our team, many of whom teach in-person sessions and weren't very familiar with the online curriculum. To get everyone up to speed, we had a few initial group training sessions to provide an overview and timeline of the online curriculum. In addition to that, we sent out weekly email updates informing the team about what steps needed to be taken during each week of the quarter. And finally, we used Google Drive to provide ideas and templates for our embedded librarians for communicating with faculty and students, grading assignments, etc. Here's a screenshot of what the main page of our Google folder for this class looks like. I won't get into too much detail, but I'll highlight one of the folders as an example. So the third folder from the top, which is titled Communication with Students via D2L, includes templates and the timeline for sharing information with students in our course management system about the library module, assignment due dates, workshops, etc. So I'd like to wrap up by just sharing some of the adjustments we'll be making to our online curriculum for this fall. Based on input we have received from our embedded librarians, faculty survey conducted through our first year writing program, and student feedback from our online library workshops, here are some adjustments that we will be making for autumn quarter and beyond. We'll be providing more support for faculty to help them learn more about the embedding process. For instance, I'll be attending our first year writings online department meeting for fall to provide an overview of the embedding process. I will also hold virtual office hours for faculty the week before the start of the class as they finalize their course syllabi. Next, we're planning on finalizing our instruction schedule for first year writing several weeks before the start of autumn quarter to allow for embedded librarians to get in touch with faculty that they'll be working with to discuss the involvement with the course well before the start of the quarter and create a plan. We will also be enhancing our online library workshops and make them longer and more interactive. And finally, our long-term goal is to better align our online and in-person curricula to eliminate some of the challenges that we faced with having two different curricula for a class that's offered in different formats. So as we have navigated these strange times and uncertain times and adjusted our instruction programs to support the evolving needs of our library users, I found it very helpful to learn about how other librarians are tackling similar challenges that we have also faced. And I hope by providing insight into our first year library instruction program at DePaul, you're able to find a few things that might be helpful for your institutions. And that's it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Fee. Thank you, Tish, both for your presentations. Very helpful. Awesome. So I'd like to transition into some question and answer portion. With so many people to try to manage the question and answer, if you have a question you would like to ask of the panel, please type the word stack in front of it. You'll see a couple examples in the chat. That lets me know that you would like to chat with the panelists and throw that out there. And I'll try to call on those people in the order that they're in the chat. When you're called, please unmute. You can show your video if you like, and you can ask your question of the panelists and kind of have some back and forth there. If you as an attendee have an answer to a question that's being asked, go ahead and type that answer into the chat. Or if you have an additional info, please put that there. If you have a question for the group as a whole, so not just the panelists, please go ahead and put that in the chat. You don't have to put stack in front of it. And as attendees, please participate in the chat, offer any insight you have. We're really trying to add as much conversation and value to this time as we can. The transcript for the chat will be captured and sent out as well. So we'll have that document as well to make sure that people have access to that information as well as the recording of today. So without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get to the questions. Carl, I think we've answered, I sent that link in the chat about the LibGuides that are on our website. And Kim, I believe, Tish, you're going to be sharing the document, the slides with the links.
Sorry, yeah, I will put that link actually in the chat in just a minute.
Awesome, great. And so, Jennifer, if you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Tish. I'd like to hear more about your communication with faculty. I know that's a challenge we have also, and I'm just trying to figure out what is working really well for you to get the word out.
Hey, Jennifer. Thanks. That's a good question. And I have to tell you, I'm not sure what's working best, just to be really honest. I feel like often it's just throwing things out into a void. But what I think I've noticed this summer is that, I mean, summer is a rough time anyway for email communication. Faculty are such different places. Some are taking a break, some are not. Some just aren't checking their email as often. So emails have not been great for us recently. So I think, especially like those mass, like all faculty emails. So individual contact, as always, I think works the best. We also, when we transitioned to working from home, like in the college closed, we created a Facebook page for faculty. And that's the one place I feel like adjunct faculty, full-time faculty, and some admin are actually pretty participatory. And so I've noticed that when things get posted there, like you can see like how many people have viewed it. And I think really that has been kind of the best way to get information out. I've seen people interacting with that content more than an email. So I don't know if you all are doing anything like that, but it's surprising to me because I'm not a Facebook user myself, but that's the one place where I'm actually seeing a lot of engagement.
Awesome, thank you. We have a question from Kelly. So Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, I'm at a very, very small liberal arts college, and I'm the only librarian there and the only one that does instruction. And I've never done video recording and posting it. So if there is a good program out there you want to share that you've been using that's reliable and easy to add to a break, our D2L or anything, that'd be great to hear.
So for DePaul, our Center for Teaching and Learning actually uses Panopto. They subscribe to Panopto, so they use that for faculty, and we also use it in the library. We have recently, our digital services department has required Camtasia and Snagit licenses for us, which we'll be using as well. It's a lot more user-friendly in our experience than using Panopto. And one very easy thing that I think some of our librarians have really liked doing, and it's kind of doesn't really take a lot of investment, is just kind of displaying something on your screen and just doing a Zoom recording, and then sharing that Zoom recording with faculty or students. So that's also one low-cost way of doing it if you have access to Zoom or if you're just using the free version of Zoom. So those are some of the things we've been using at DePaul.
Yeah, I would echo all of that. And I've been using Screencast-O-Matic because it's pretty user-friendly. The free version offers a little bit of editing options. And when we transitioned, I didn't take a laptop with all of the like fancy library purchased licensed things. So I've just been finding like the free stuff that works. And so that was, I think, the thing that worked the best for me. And it does screencasting as well as just video.
Thanks.
Awesome. Jenny, I think, was next.
Hi, everyone. I was just wondering, for those of you, and I know I saw some people in the chat talking about this kind of at the end of the last session, so if anyone else wants to add answers, please do. But for those of you who have said that the library is only going to offer online research instruction, even if some of the classes might be meeting face-to-face, I was wondering if you had a consensus among the librarians that they wanted to go this way, or if you got any pushback from people who might be hesitant about doing instruction online, and how you handle that. Thanks.
I'm happy to chime in. So with DePaul, we have classes will be both online and in person, with the majority of classes actually taking place online. And I think we had consensus. We discussed it in one of our team meetings, and I think the consensus was that we would like to go ahead with virtual instruction for autumn quarter. So this is for both all of our programmatic instruction and subject-specific instruction, which our liaisons kind of take care of. So I think we were lucky in the sense that we were all on the same page, and we thought that being virtual and remote was best for our library.
So we don't have any in-person options, but what we've tried to do with scheduling is there are a few librarians who aren't super comfortable with using Canvas or learning management system. So, you know, this spring and even this summer, just taking volunteers. So who wants to take these classes? We've managed it that way. I don't know that we'll be able to do that as well in the fall. So that's why we spent a lot of time training. So hopefully everyone by the end of this summer will feel really comfortable with our learning management system and putting together, or at least utilizing some of the instruction guides other people have put together. We're trying to make it as really painless as possible for people to do the teaching that we have to do.
Awesome, thank you. And I think Bridget had kind of an add-on to that question. So Bridget, go ahead.
Looks like Bridget doesn't have audio. So you know what, Dan? I'm going to ask it for her.
Okay, great.
So Bridget's question, as I just lose it, was, oh, she says, to add to Jenny's question, what about the digital divide? We have a lot of those too.
Sure, we do as well, especially community college. We have students in a lot of different places. So a lot of that isn't happening on like the instruction level, but our library has, and our college has worked really hard to provide laptops for students who need access to those. And we have loaned out Wi-Fi hotspots so that the college has tried to really reduce that barrier as much as possible. We're also offering some in-person library time. So although instruction won't be happening in person, students will have access to the library when they do need to access a computer, reference. We're going to have limited reference options as well. So although, you know, students may not be able to watch like an instruction video at home, they should be able to come to the library and do that. So we're hoping and we're also trying to make things as low tech as possible. So, you know, offering something that they can read in addition to a video that might take up more bandwidth or something like that. So using lots of different options to make things as accessible to students as possible.
This isn't exactly digital divide, but we kind of noticed that with offering our online library workshops, and most of which were taking place synchronously, we had students who weren't able to connect, you know, for a synchronous session, or they were in different time zones, and sometimes they were even in different countries. So we had to kind of navigate when we were offering Zoom workshops and make sure that we were offering them throughout the day, morning, afternoon, and evening. And even at some point, we started recording some of our sessions. So instead of students having to attend a synchronous workshop, they would be able to access the link and watch the video on their own time.
Awesome. I don't think there have been other stack questions. So dealer's choice, I guess. So outside of like video recording, in some insider information. I know that we have done a number of things, used a number of different technologies to provide different kinds of media or different kinds of instruction outside of videos. Have you all found some that have been helpful or interesting, or things you think are have the potential to be engaging with students?
Thanks for that setup, Dan. Insider info for sure. So the thing that I'm most excited about, so we had these instruction spotlights that we did all summer. So like each of the librarians would like choose a technology that they wanted to highlight, something that they thought would be like easy and useful for other librarians to like create things with. And my favorite, I think, is the ThingLink. So I don't know if anyone's explored ThingLink before, but it's pretty incredible. So it makes an interactive tutorial. And so you can create like library tours. You can like, there's all kinds of things you can do with it. And so we just created a tour for our College 101 class that highlights all of the things they can do online, as well as some of the physical things that they'll be able to do. And I think that has been transformative for the way I've been thinking about how students can interact with our library and interact with information. So we've linked within ThingLink to a couple of videos, but it also like just lets students move through at their own pace, gives them options to do all kinds of things within the context of this tutorial. So I'm a fan.
Fee, any thanks.
Sure. I don't think this is as exciting as ThingLink, which I'll have to check out right after this session. One thing that our Center for Teaching and Learning has been offering is Poll Everywhere. So we've used Poll Everywhere in our orientation sessions that we conduct for orientation leaders and things like that. But we've been kind of aware of its existence, but we haven't actually used it for our instruction purposes a lot. I know some of our librarians have used it, but for our library workshops, our students have asked for them to be more interactive. So I'm excited to actually play around with Poll Everywhere and try to incorporate some of those interactive tools into our workshops. So that's one thing that I would recommend is Poll Everywhere if you haven't checked it out.
Awesome, thank you, Fee. Another question from the chat. So Jen, if you want to jump in, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm curious about, assessment and statistics. I mean, I think probably most of us in the spring were just trying to get by, but I think now questions are coming up again about how are we assessing, how are we sort of proving what we're doing, how do we know whether students are using things we're creating? Have you had to tackle that at all yet, or?
So at DePaul, we've actually been working with the head of with the coordinator of our instruction, along with one of my colleagues who's our data services librarian. And we've kind of been rethinking about our instruction stats, about how we kind of collect the information, how we track it, and how we present the information. So we've also talked about kind of a lot of these instructional content that our librarians are creating, but we're really not tracking. So we are kind of redoing all of that. And we've created a simple form where we're going to ask our librarians to fill out every time they create unique content for a course. So if they're creating like a course guide, or if they're creating like a tutorial or a video, our plan is to start tracking that and kind of start seeing all of that and from fall quarter. So yes, we are kind of rethinking our whole in instruction stats aspect of everything.
Yeah, really same here. So the way we are kind of measuring instruction this fall, instead of like I said in the presentation, like 95% of everything was, an in-person, face-to-face, usually one shot. So now it's whenever a faculty member asks for anything for their course that is instructional related. So maybe they need a guide for using Academic Search Complete, or maybe they want to, a video for evaluating information. Even if we the librarian isn't like deeply interactive with that class. I think anytime we are providing something instructional that we have created, whether that's original or something, even something borrowed, we are kind of marking that as instruction. It's a little bit trickier since we are making all of that content also just available on our website to track that. I don't think we've figured out exactly, because we're using a lot of different methods, like how to keep track of all of those click-throughs. But at least for the strict instruction piece, we're definitely like, anytime an instructor needs something and we're providing it, like that's going to be an instruction session. So librarians are keeping track of that, and we have a spreadsheet just for that.
Awesome. Marilyn, looks like you're next. So Marilyn, if you want to jump in.
Okay. I'm a public services head of reference, information literacy librarian, and several other tasks that I don't want to take time to mention. I was recently asked by the dean to see how we could implement the D2L learning management system and connect that with library resources. And I'm just beginning to review the system, and I sent a message off to the teaching and learning head to maybe collaborate on how we could implement the D2L learning system. So I would be interested to hear from someone who has experience with the training and has implemented the resources. And if they could just give me a brief overview or help me with that.
So we use D2L at DePaul as our course management system, and we work very closely for our Center for Teaching and Learning. And there are a couple of different ways that we use D2L. So there is just some low-stake way of using it where you just embed a widget with basic library information, with linking to research guides, ask a librarian, library hours, some basic information. So that sits in all of, whatever D2L, whatever courses use D2L, that could be something that would be inserted in all the sections. So they could just see that little link to the library, so they can access and get some more information and link to the library page. One way that we've used D2L, which is a little more time intensive, is by creating modules. So we, for example, have a module for our first year writing program where we have all of the assignments and all of the different pieces, all the rubrics for that particular class in the module. So for example, all the links for the tutorials and the videos the students will have to watch, the assignments they will have to complete, the rubric we will be using to grade it, the signups for all of the workshops, they're all included in that library module. And then we include that module only in the courses, for example, only in our first year writing classes. And I should mention that with our Center for Teaching and Learning does a lot of that. So we do a lot of the upkeep and updating and revising the modules, but really they're the ones who take care of adding all the modules to the courses and helping us with a lot of that. So we do have support. That's what I guess trying to say.
Good. We don't at this point. That position is vacant, but your information has been very helpful. Thank you, Fee.
Sure.
Sue, I think you're next. So Sue, if you want to hop on.
Hi, I just have a question generally for either the two panelists or anybody else that's on the meeting. I am trying to plan on transitioning to long 3-hour sessions for a single class, and I want to do some synchronous, but I don't want students to be falling asleep. For 3 hours, it seems too long. Is anybody doing a combination of synchronous and asynchronous for a single library session?
So I am not the one who teaches our nursing classes at Moraine, but my colleague was just recently talking about this to me and just how difficult it was to transition like these really long intensive courses, but he is doing a mix of that synchronous and asynchronous. So it's a lot of like videos and interactive like worksheet type things, but then also I think there's a couple of synchronous sessions that are involved. And you know, I think probably different levels, possibly community college versus where you're at, Sue, but I could send you his email if you wanted to check in with him.
That would be great. Thanks, Tish.
And it looks like a couple other resources thrown in the chat for you, Sue. Awesome. Any other questions from the chat? We're kind of in the wrap up moment here. For Fee and Tish, is there anything that's kind of popped up for you as the questions have come up or from your presentation that you would like to add kind of in closing?
I think one thing that I've kind of noticed is that a lot of us are kind of tackling a lot of the same issues. I mentioned this at the end of my presentation. I think it's just been very helpful to attend a lot of different webinars that are offered, especially the ones that it's more of a conversation and information sharing, just to see how everybody else is doing, but also learn about these new tools that, you know, I normally wouldn't get to learn about. Like I'm going to go check out ThinkLink. So again, it's been really helpful. And I know it's just one of those silver linings of COVID is that we've been able to come together a lot more. And, you know, as librarians, we share information, but even more now. So that's one thing that I'm really grateful for.
I would just echo that. I think, you know, one of the things when I start to get frustrated with maybe missing the face-to-face interactions with our students, I am also kind of amazed at like the way our instruction team has pulled together and like just learned so much. It has, I think, changed the way I'm going to be in the classroom in our face-to-face, like whenever we get to go back face-to-face, this real long experience teaching online is shifting the way I'm thinking about instruction in really positive ways. So I think that's one silver lining. And I think the more we can learn from each other, like that's very exciting. And one thing to be really happy about in the midst of so much that's hard right now.
Awesome. So I'll give a final thank you to Fee and to Tish for being panelists and offering your wisdom and your experience and your expertise. I think it's been very helpful. Thanks for all the people in attendance for sharing questions and adding to the conversation. I think this has all been very important and a good conversation to have. So in closing, I think thank yous. There's one thing that I want to mention just to put kind of out there into the world. IACRL is planning to host a Spark webinar. So we did this in May, and I'm just pulling up the details, so bear with me for a moment. So we did a Spark presentation at the end of May. We are looking to do another kind of Spark mini webinar on December 9th from 9:30 a.m. to noon. And we're calling it Trial by Fire, Lessons Learned in a Pandemic. So kind of put that on the calendar, save the date, and look out for a call for proposals. We'll be sending that out soon. And we hope that you all will be able to kind of share kind of at this milestone at the end of the first semester, what's been working, what's not been working, and what kind of directions we're taking for the spring, because I think spring will also present a whole host of new challenges for us, and we'll have to shift yet again into the spring as things maybe potentially open up or not. So again, thank you so much for everyone that was here. This is such a great turnout. Thank you to the panelists, and we'll see you at the next one.